Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Dear Mom, I'm Gay podcast. I'm so excited for this week's guest. We have Austin Roeters. Say hello, Austin.
Hello.
So true story. I've actually known who Austin was before I knew Austin. Do you know who the Vendellans are?
Yes.
Yes. For those of you listening that don't know who the Vendellans are, they're this awesome couple here in Grand Rapids that run a few different ministries and a few different outreach programs. And I would say, I'm going to guess it was 3 years ago, they shared a post of yours on Facebook. And I read it and I was crying. I was bawling. It was about, I think it was your just coming out story and about being a gay Christian.
Oh, wow.
And then for 2 years, I kind of sort of followed you on social media. Just every once in a while, they would share something that you posted and then I would read it. And then last January, you came to this fundraiser thing that I did through with the O'Mearas, another
Yes.
great family that I know.
Yeah, very much
Hi,
so.
Christy. I know that you're listening to this.
She's the best.
She is. She's amazing. So I met you then, and I didn't make the connection. And then after that, I added you on social media, and I was like, "This is the guy that writes the blog
It's
that I
me.
read. It's you." So I knew of you long before I knew you, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah. And then this past, I think it was September that we did that. August?
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
still somewhat warm.
It was somewhat
Just
warm.
how I tell time now, I guess.
Yes, in Michigan, we just tell time on what we have to wear outside.
Yep.
Yeah. So we did the Pride monologues, and I was a couple actors short, and I reached out to you, and you made your thespian debut.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were brilliant.
Well, thank you.
And you were one of the people in Grand Rapids that was off book. No shade to the other people that weren't off book. But you put your whole self into it. You did great.
Yeah, I do have to confess that I have done theater before.
Oh.
And I don't know if maybe when you introduced me, you said I hadn't done it, and I wasn't going to change the narrative just because the expectations were low if I had never done it before. But I
fair.
did theater in high school and throughout college. So, surprise.
Surprise. So this is where the truth happens.
Yes. This
Yes.
is now a confessional.
So what did you do? What shows did you do in high school and in college?
Let's see. I think one of my favorites from high school was Around the World in 80 Days.
Nice.
I played Passport 2, who's the French butler. And there was a lot of gymnastic, flipping around to the stage and just being really over the top, which was really fun. And then I went to a tiny Christian college called Appalachian Bible College, and the drama coach wrote all of the productions.
Okay.
And they were hyper melodramatic and very heavy-handed with Jesus and Christianity. So no one would know them if I even named them.
That's fair.
So
But you were a thespian before this.
yes.
I love that. That fits. You fit a thespian. Your energy works for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I feel like actors generally have, I don't know, just a different energy, a confidence, I guess.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So we're going to dive in here and we're going to play our first little game. This
Cool.
is just an icebreaker. I think I explained this in other episodes, but basically I send the guest a bunch of questions and they don't know which ones I'm going to pick. So they have a little bit of time to maybe chew on it, but then they don't know, just so we have a little bit of spontaneity, keep it a little interesting. All right, you ready?
Ready.
All right. Your favorite place you've ever visited?
I went to Kosovo, which is in Eastern Europe by Albania with my family on a missions trip. And it was such a weird mixture of cultures. I would hear roosters in the morning and then the Islamic call to prayer throughout the day. And then gypsy parties at 9
That's
p.m.
awesome.
and then dogs barking throughout the night. And it was a very eye-opening experience for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a good place. I haven't had Kosovo yet. Most people like Florida. So that's a good answer.
That's a nice place too.
That's
Disney's
a nice
great.
place. Yeah. That's good. That leads me to my next question. What's your favorite Disney movie?
It's Coco.
Coco.
Yes.
That's a good one.
I cried every time.
I just saw that they're turning that into a Broadway musical.
Are they really?
They are. On one of my theater things I follow, so I definitely want to go see that because that would be
For
good.
sure.
Yeah, I was worried. No offense to Encanto, but I feel like Coco's a way better story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for the stage,
Yeah.
hands
Encanto
down.
was catchier. But
Yes.
the story itself was much better in Coco.
Yeah, I feel like Coco, the story is going to be great for the stage, hands down. Favorite childhood toy?
Um, as a kid, I was obsessed with Thomas the Tank Engine.
I love
And I
that.
had this huge wooden, I think it's like Brio is the brand, like just wooden train set that I would have go like all over my room and like leave out for everyone to trip over.
Of course,
Yep,
obviously. Yeah.
always.
So you're going to be jealous. I've ridden on Thomas.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I know. It's a big deal. My nephew was really obsessed with Thomas when we were little. I think Thomas was his first word. We took him to Greenfield Village. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's like this old timey village. It's on the east side. It's by Detroit. And they every year they have Thomas like come there and you can ride. It's like
Oh
a
my
full
gosh.
size train. And so we rode Thomas multiple years because he thought that was the best thing
That's
ever.
so
As
cute.
any 4-year-old boy wouldn't lose their mind over
Yes.
riding
Or
Thomas.
29-year-old boy.
Right. Exactly. All right. This one's good because they don't know this, but your husband is in the room.
Yes.
So this is a one that we can test and see if you answer truthfully, unlike you did when you were a thespian. Would your husband describe you as messy or organized?
We actually talked about this when we were talking about the podcast, but I think he would say that I'm organized because all of the messy aspects are both of our messy aspects. Like we
All right.
both leave clothes out like in the bedroom. We both like don't do the dishes. So
I love that.
he's making a very skeptical face, but
Yes.
I'm gonna say organized.
When I was picking these questions out, I read that to my partner and he's like, and he just gave me a look and I was like, I know I'm messy. Like I admit it, like I will own it. He's like, at least you own it. I was like, and he's very organized. And I think the first couple years of our relationship, he thought he could change me. And then I think he just gave up. He's like, nope, he's going to just be a little bit of a disaster all the time. And it works for me. I am just a
But
little
does it
bit.
work for him? That's the question.
He, I don't. He would have to ask him. I don't think so. He's adapted well, and I think I've
Nice.
adapted. Like I know when my messiness is out of control. Like I'm aware of it, and then I'm like, okay, you got to organize
it
this
then.
room. Yeah, and then I'll take a day and just organize the room, and then I won't know where anything is because it's too organized. But that's a problem for a different podcast. All right, this is a bucket list question. What place would you like to visit?
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, I think the culture and the architecture just really appealing to me.
I love that. Let's see. Which one should we do next? Oh, what household chore do you hate the most?
Putting away clothes. I don't mind doing the laundry, but the folding and putting away, I will avoid at all costs.
Same. I feel you on that. I actually have clothes in my bedroom right now that I should have put away like 2 days ago that are just sitting on the floor. All right. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I think it would be telekinesis, like moving
Oh.
things with my mind.
Yeah.
Just because in movies growing up, that was always the coolest power when people would like lose control of their emotions and start like throwing things around the room or lift
Yeah.
a house.
I love that. That's a good choice. All right. I think that would be good. Well, I just think of like Harry Potter and like all those people with their little wand, they can move things. And
Yes.
yeah, that would
But
be
if it's
epic.
your mind, you don't need a wand.
Right. It's even better.
Three hands.
Yeah. All right. Ready? 3 words that best describe you.
I hate these questions.
You're welcome.
So first one, overthinker, because
Okay.
I cannot do this. I even did this in an interview once, and it was like kind, loyal, and fun, and I walked away like, oh, I'm a dog, like I'm a golden retriever. So overthinker, I think in that same vein, intellectual,
Nice.
just because I love to analyze things and critique them and figure out what underlying messages are or what like the real story is behind the way something's presented. And then third, I can also just be very present and say hungry.
Fair. I'm also hungry. We are doing this at dinner time.
Yep.
And I already said I'm eating after this. I think we got all 10. I think we did good with that. Let's do a bonus one. Let's do an 11th one.
Ooh.
I know. Because I feel like this is an important one. What is your order at Starbucks?
It's probably an iced matcha latte or a blonde vanilla latte. I say basic bitch.
Yes, that's fine.
Little basic bitch in my Starbucks orders.
It's okay.
No offense to anyone who also enjoys them. But.
Yeah, I pretty much get the same. I used to work at Starbucks.
Oh, really?
And I've gotten the same thing for like 15 years. I get an ice venti soy chai
Nice.
every single time. And every once in a while I'll change it up, but pretty much it's just what I get. It makes me happy.
Yeah,
And it's
you
all
like what you
sugar.
like.
It's all sugar. Like it's horrible for you, but it's delicious. This is a good segue for our first commercial break.
Oh, perfect.
Yes. Today's sponsor is Meta and Shanti. Meta and Shanti is a wellness spa and boutique in West Michigan. They offer massage, skincare treatments, and yoga classes. They also have a boutique with fashionable clothing at affordable prices. If you're not in West Michigan, no problem. You can shop their boutique online at metaandshantiwellness.com. That's metaandshantiwellness.com. metaandshantiwellness.com. Welcome back. I'm here with Austin. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into your life. I know a little bit about your story, but just from your posts on Facebook, but I actually don't know your story. So I'm excited for me, myself, to learn just a little bit about you and things about you. So we're going to start with your upbringing. Can you just tell us a little bit about where you grew up, how you grew up, what your parents did for a living, those kind of things?
Yeah. I grew up in West Virginia as the oldest of three kids. My dad did 20 years in the Army National Guard, Special Forces, so he was kind of just a badass for a living.
Yes.
My mom raised us when he was deployed for years at a time, or she would be a long-term substitute teacher or church secretary or a house cleaner. I think I started going to church probably the first Sunday after conception. And that happened every Sunday for most of my childhood and high school. Went to a Christian school, so very immersed in the church and Christianity. My parents they're deeply devoted to their faith and both genuinely love Jesus. And that is kind of how they organized their life and our life growing up. And they are very authentic with their faith. They're not hypocritical in any way, and I respect that a lot about them.
Can I ask what denomination you grew up?
I think it was closest to Baptist,
Okay.
and then later on, non-denominational. That was basically Baptist without the title.
Yes. We've actually said that in every podcast so far, that non-denominational is Baptist without the title. That should just be the name of our podcast.
Yeah.
We should just change it. Well, that's awesome. What were your hobbies as a kid?
I loved art. I loved to
Nice.
draw. I loved to paint. Wasn't athletic, much to my parents' dismay. Was not sporty. But loved reading, loved being outside. And then later in high school did theater.
I love that. Do you have siblings?
I do.
Nice.
Younger brother and younger sister.
Nice. All right. So now let's dive a little bit into the sexuality part of it. When did you first realize that, hey, I might be gay?
I didn't admit it to myself until probably my sophomore year of college. But looking back, I realized that I noticed men and their bodies probably in elementary. So it was a really young thing. But just given the context that I was in and how I was brought up, that wasn't even really an option in my head.
Right.
Because being gay was something to be made fun of, or something that was wicked, basically. Something that wouldn't just happen to me.
Yeah, I get that. Growing up, I didn't even know that you could be gay and be a Christian. I thought they were two separate things, and that if you were a Christian, you couldn't even deal with homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that if you were gay, then you prayed this prayer and then you weren't gay anymore.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't
Yes.
even know that I could coexist in these two worlds, and it could be something that I was. I think I knew that I wasn't your stereotypical boy, if you will, but I don't think it took me a really long time to realize,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gay. Who was the first person that you told that you were gay?
I think it was actually a therapist.
Nice.
I started struggling with depression pretty severely my sophomore year of college, and my parents sent me to see a therapist, as a good parent would do.
Yeah.
I think that's the first person that I admitted it to. And then I think the first person that actually kind of like mattered, like who was either like a friend or family member, was one of my roommates that I had in college, who had actually told me that they struggled with same-sex attraction like a year earlier.
Yes. Same sex attraction. I haven't
Yes.
heard that in a while.
Nice Christian buzzword.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We're not even going to get into that. That's a whole nother topic. So are you out to everybody? Are you out to your family, your parents now?
Yes.
Yes. How did your parents respond?
They at the time they were positive because when I first came out, I didn't think I could be in a gay relationship and Christian, and so I just come to the place where I would either be celibate or somehow miraculously like fall in love with a woman. So when I told them, it was that I had these attractions, but I'm never going to act on them. And they were really sweet. They kind of assumed already, but they said they loved me, nothing changed, and they were here to help me. But then we never really talk about it after that.
Yeah. Are they supportive now?
They are not.
Okay.
They've my relation with them is complicated.
Fair.
They've come such a long way as far as like bringing Misha, my husband, like into our family and engaging with him and engaging with me and still actively having a relationship. Yeah, they come a long way.
Fair. Yeah. That's tough. I'm sorry that I my parents are divorced and my mom has come leaps and bounds. It's great, but my dad and I pretty much don't have a relationship. We text twice a year on his birthday and on mine, and that's the extent of our communication. Every once in a while, anyone that knows me knows I love Idina Menzel. He will text me when Idina Menzel is on TV. That's like our one thing that we kind of talk about. So I relate to that. But my mom has done great. My mom is great with my partner. She'll come visit us. She lives on the east side. So she'll come visit us and she'll stay here. And if we're there, he can stay there. Like she's come a long way with that. But yeah, relationships with religious parents can be difficult,
Yes.
to say the least. I would like your opinion on this. This is not on my list, so
Oh, that's
I
fine.
can edit this out if you tell me to. I think one thing that's, I don't want to word this, that I've noticed as a society, and you're younger than I am, probably like 10 years younger than I am. In the 90s growing up, the word hate wasn't used. Like you would get almost in trouble if you used the word hate. They were like, that is such a
Yeah.
strong word. You don't hate anything. Like you weren't allowed to say that you hated anything. Like you were scolded from your teachers, your parents, anyone. If you said you hated something, that like,
Yes.
that's a strong word. And now I think as a society, especially in the gay or queer world, we talk about people hating us just because they don't agree with us. And we were talking about this yesterday, that I know that my mom doesn't fully agree with it, but I also never have doubted my mom's love for me. She shows it in so many ways. Even though she doesn't necessarily agree with it, she'll go
Right.
out of her comfort zone to make me feel welcome. And I think that's something that we as gay culture need to be a little bit aware of, throwing the word hate so loosely around, because there are people that can disagree with you and genuinely love you. And it's a weird place to find your mind in, because you want to be accepted. I think just that's human nature. We want to be
Oh,
loved
definitely.
and accepted for who we are. But at the same time, there are people that are going to disagree with us that can still love us. And I think unless you grew up in this weird Christian world that we did and you are with parents like that, I feel like most people can't relate to that. So my question that I'm getting to is, did you ever doubt your parents' love for you, even though they might not accept this part of you?
No, I don't think I ever doubted their love for me. I I was still very hurt and rejected by some of the things that they did, but I always knew that they loved me underneath it all.
I love that. That's important. I think that's really important, especially as a young person. If you feel like your family turned on you, it's really easy to feel alone. So that's the only reason I worry about that that word hate being thrown so loosely around, because I do think it's important, especially for people coming out, that they feel loved.
I think I don't want to say got off easy, but like I wasn't like disowned. It's not like a parent stopped talking to me.
Yeah.
But I feel like learning to rest in that middle space of knowing how much I disagree with somebody or how much they disagree with me, and know that we have some foundational tension, but that we can still have a relationship with
Yeah.
that tension. I think that's where like I'm trying to sit with my family, is enjoy the relationship we have and enjoy the things we have in common and our mutual pursuit of Jesus, with some very like polarized beliefs in there.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like navigating like Christianity and like homosexuality, or like the church and queer culture as a whole, is there are some people who their minds are never going to change.
Right.
So we have to find that middle space where we can exist and keep moving forward together, with our disagreements.
Yeah. That was something that I went through. I came out during the It Gets Better era. Are you aware of
I
that?
don't think so.
So like the early 2000s, there was this whole, like, there was books about it, and like everything was called the It Gets Better, where it's going to suck to come out, but it gets better, basically, was the narrative of that. And I remember having that conversation with so many of my friends that I was like, my dad's not going to change. And they would be like, but you're being negative. I'm like, I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic. And here we are 20 years later, and my dad hasn't budged. If anything, he's dug his heels in more. And I think it's okay to be real with that, and
Oh
just
yeah.
know that there are going to be people that you just have to figure out how to coexist with, and that's what I've had to do with my dad. I had to figure out where my line for our relationship works with my mental health, and where it's best for him, and kind of coexist in the best way that we can. And right now it's text messages, and maybe I see him once a year at a family thing, and I hope that can get better. But I think also sometimes accepting people where they are and just
Right.
being a little bit real, which sucks sometimes. But I think it's important to be realistic too when you're coming out. Like, you know your family probably better than anybody else.
Yes.
Yeah, and you kind of know. My dad is stubborn just in general as a human. And he was a Baptist minister. When you're a Baptist minister, like, your interpretation of the Bible is basically your DNA.
Yes.
And he was not going to come around. Like, and people were like, even for his own kid? I was like, probably especially not for his own kid. He's going to be embarrassed. And there's going to be like this whole, I didn't follow Jesus right moment. I digress. We'll move on. We kind of answered the next couple questions. So, are you out to everyone in your life? Are you out at work? It
Yes.
is okay.
Yeah, I think because I started blogging at first to deal with my mental health.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know that I had done everything in my power to articulate what my experience was, for people to see, I guess, the invisible things I was struggling with, because I was such a high performer in college, like with grades, and I was on student council, and like had so many friends, but like I was like suicidal and dealt with self-harm. So I was deeply struggling, and I wanted people to be able to see that and relate. So as like the blog went on, and I came to realize I was gay, and then like came to figure out how I was going to deal with that in light of my faith, and like in light of my life, the blog changed to more about like homosexuality and faith. And so that was kind of like me coming out to everyone, because everyone can read about it and retweet it. So
Right. I always say I'm gay Googleable.
yes.
Once you're gay Googleable, it's kind of like impossible to escape.
Yeah.
Which I think there's power in that. Like, you can't hide at that point. Like, you just have to embrace yourself, and you are what you are. We're going to end with two questions that I think are important to hear from someone that's lived through it. I have a feeling that this podcast will be a lot of young people, and I think it's important that we as mature gay men.
Oh gosh.
Hey, you're still the age I tell everybody I am, so we're good. Unless you lied about that too. Are we?
No.
lying? Okay.
No.
All right.
No, but I will be 30 in a couple months, and I am not happy about it.
That's fair. My 30th birthday, I didn't let anyone acknowledge it. I was like, don't text me, don't call me. We're not talking. We're not acknowledging this. All right. So my two questions: what would you tell LGBTQ youth that are listening to this?
It gets better. No, I'm just kidding. I think that one of the biggest struggles for me was having like my own personal faith and feeling like I would forever be like wrong or broken or like fall short of what like God wanted for me or what I could do for God. And so I think I would tell LGBT youth that, as Christian cliche as it is, like God does love them and they can be fully involved like in his family and his kingdom. And they're not like a second class citizen or family member. They're just as Christian as anyone else.
I love that.
I don't know, like Christianity is triggering for like many LGBTQ people, but that's my hope for them, is that their version of Christianity is not because of the I guess like the impact of the American church, but more like ideological disagreements.
I love that. No, that's good advice. All right. This one could be twofold. So I'll let you answer it how you feel.
Okay.
What are your dreams for the future? They can be your personal dreams, or they could be dreams for like our country or the world or anything. What are your dreams for the future?
I think I would love for like being a member of the LGBTQ population to not really be an issue.
Yeah.
Like I would like it not to be a debate among Christians. I would like it just to be, oh great, like you're great, that's amazing, love that.
Yes.
Like I just wish there wasn't so much work around it and like trauma, or even like coming out being a big deal. Like I wish it was just a normal part of life.
Right. I had someone, when I told them I was doing this, they're like, well, I'm against that. And I was like, why? And they were like, because gay people shouldn't have to come out. I was like, true, but we're not in that world yet. Yes, I would love that to be true. And I hope that in time we don't need a podcast where people have to talk about their coming out experience, because it's no big deal. But we're not there yet. I think we're closer to that. I think the generation now, depending on where you live in the country, your parents will throw you a party when you come out. So we've gotten better, but I feel like we still have a long way to go.
And I think it's still important to come out. I think just being able to be honest out loud, like to yourself and other people, is so freeing. It was super relieving for me.
Yes, I think that's true. I think once my family knew, even though it wasn't the best situation for me, it was nice to not have to hide it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was freedom in that, to just be like, I don't have to lie about where I'm going or who I'm hanging out with or anything. And I could just coexist with them. All right. We talked about your blog a couple times. I'm a fan of your blog. That's the reason why you're here, basically. I think it's great. I feel like even if you aren't someone that grew up from the Christian world, I feel like you can still get a lot out of it. I recommend everybody read it, especially if you have a gay friend that is coming from a religious background and maybe you didn't. It might help you understand what your friend is going through, what they're living through. Or if you did grow up and you need to like refigure out what your faith looks like and what your relationship with God is like, I think it's great. I honestly love what you're doing with that. So where can people find it?
So it's thefrankexpression.blog.
Yes.
Or you can follow me on Instagram, AustinThinks7, and the link is in the bio.
Perfect. I think on some of the platforms for where this will be, I can put a link in the bottom. So if it's on YouTube or whatever, I'll put a link so people can find that, because I really think what you're doing is great. More people should read it, and I think it will help a lot of people. So hopefully some new people will find it and find some freedom in that. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you were fabulous. You did an excellent job. If you would like your story featured on the Dear Mom I'm Gay podcast, you can email me at deargaypodcast@gmail.com and we can put you on here. Also, same email address if you're a mom out there that would like to write a letter to her queer child. Or if you're a mom that doesn't have a queer child and you would just like to write a letter to the queer community because you love them, we would love those letters too. On that note, we are signing off and we will see you next week.